This podcast is brought to you by the North East BIC, thanks to funding from the Durham Social Boost Project provided via DCMS, helping social enterprises grow, supporting local businesses and driving innovation across our community. Thanks. Hello and welcome back to the Good Eggs podcast. My name is Anthony McDermott and we are here once again at Diego's Joint CIC in Sunnyside, Sunderland. Today I'm joined by the fabulous Sarah and Colin from the Wiggly Path CIC. So, let's go and meet them. Okay, well, welcome Sarah and Colin. Welcome to Diego's Joint CIC. Thank you so much for coming along to be a guest on the Good Eggs podcast.
Thank you.
Good.
I think you're welcome.
I'm sure we will be. Well, you're here today because we think you are good eggs, and we want to hear all about the pair of you. Where have you come from? Where are you going to? And what it is you are doing at the Wiggly Path company. So, shall we start with who are you and where you're from? Who are you and where you're from? Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
I'm Sarah Wilson, and I'm of an age where I've done lots of things.
Brilliant. Where are you from originally, Sarah? Where were you born?
I was born in Winchester.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And
Military town?
Yeah, military town, and you've guessed it, yes, I'm a child of a service person.
Pad brat, as they call it. Yeah.
My dad was in the Fleet Air Arm, so
okay.
he was fixing radios on helicopters and various other things. So yes, I've had a sporadic Lossiemouth, Taunton, Gosport, Leicester, Darlington, and Darlington was sort of my last stop.
Is that where you
with my dad?
Was that kind of Catterick, or was it kind of the RAF base up there?
No, he came out of the Navy by then.
Right, sorry, Navy, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Great. So, and so you moved quite a bit when you were a kid, obviously. How was that? Did you enjoy being in the military lifestyle, or...?
It was more difficult coming out of it than being in it, because you didn't know what you were doing. And it sort of, coming to the North East was quite, as a blow-in, was quite difficult at 12. Yeah.
Is that how old you were at 12, yeah? Is that when your dad got out of the Navy at that
Yes,
point?
when he came out of the Navy, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you settled in Darlington, yeah?
Settled in Darlington, went to school in Darlington, then up sticks, back down to Leicestershire to do a degree.
Because you hadn't moved around enough, had you?
No, I hadn't moved around.
And what about yourself, Colin, at this point? Where did you start off?
Well, I was born in Bishop Auckland, and then moved to Darlington when I was still quite young, about 4, I think. So sort of education in Darlington. Got a job, proper job in the steel industry.
Is that what you did in your first job, yeah?
Yeah. So I was an industrial gypsy till I was about 38, contracted, abroad, petrochemical industry, things like that.
Whereabouts abroad were you?
Mainly sort of Holland, and then I did 3 years at sea for a Greek shipping company, which sort of opens your eyes when you travel.
Yeah, I love that.
For 3 years.
I love Holland, by the way. Whereabouts in Holland were you? I love it.
We were based mainly in Dordrecht, and then spent a year up in Friesland.
I don't know Friesland.
It's right at the top end.
Right. I spent quite a bit of time in Nijmegen, if you know Nijmegen, which is kind of southwest, I think. I'm not going to lie and pretend I know. It's down there somewhere, I think. But I loved it. And actually, Holland was the first place I had horse meatballs. Yeah. I always remember the guy saying, it's horse. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, mate, right? And then he came out with this plate of horse meatballs, and it was delicious, but don't tell anybody that.
It's pardon, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the meat. So pardon.
Yeah.
Horse meat.
We genuinely didn't believe them, and then obviously we realised they were eating horse. But anyway, by the by. But yeah, cool. So Sarah, going back to you. So while Colin was off working in the steel industry and travelling around, you left school and then you went to
Leicester Polytechnic, it was, and I did a degree in fashion and textiles.
Okay, great.
Then moved down to London. Spent 23 years in London.
Wow, in the smoke.
How
was that?
Yeah, I had a good time. Unfortunately, if you look back and you think it was during the 80s and people were using masses of polyester and various other things and lavish garments, of which is a bit of sort of no now. But
because you worked in the fashion industry,
I worked in the fashion industry. Yeah, so I was a designer for various different companies. Yeah.
So any companies that we know, or?
Yeah, probably.
Go on.
I did a stint for Claremont Garments, which are no longer in existence. They were supplier to Marks and Spencers, but a lot of evening sort of special occasion companies.
That's been great.
So it was it was good fun. I liked it. Yeah.
Do you know what? I love London, right? And
Yeah.
but it's one of those places now that I always just want to dip in and out of.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine ever living there. It's so.
Yeah.
It's just go, isn't it?
Yeah.
We went recently for a couple of days, and I just remember how busy it was. It just everything's noisy and smelly.
Dirty.
It's
very dirty now.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we complain a lot about up north and lots of the things that we do or don't have or whatever. But I couldn't live in that. It is a rat race down there, isn't it?
Well, thus I brought 2 kids back up to the
Right.
northeast.
Okay.
They were sort of in primary school.
Yeah.
So didn't really want them growing up in London. Yeah, it was too hard. So when they had access to their granddad to go sailing, to go across the Lake District, to go up to Bamborough, what's not to like,
Yeah, do you know what? And where we are today in Sunderland,
Yeah.
it's people again, North East and Sunderland's got a bad reputation in many ways, but actually, you think about it from here, you've got an hour, you can be on the Scottish border,
Yeah.
you go an hour and a half the other way, you're in the Lake District, you've got the sea 2 minutes
Colour
up the road.
coats, Tyneside.
Big cities either side of you, it's beautiful, big city here, yeah, totally get it. So then you travelled back to Darlington, is that right?
Back
settle?
to Darlington.
And at this point, where were you, Colin? Were you still abroad at this point, or?
I was 38 when I'd realised that things weren't going the way I wanted them to.
Yeah. Was that with you or with the industry, or just a bit of both?
It was both. I'd suspected that I was severely dyslexic most of my life. Rubbish at school and all of that. So then, fancied a change. I just happened to bump into somebody in Darlington, and it was the local college tech shop. I just called in to see what was going on, and they said, there's an advanced art and design course. I think would be all right for you. I said, really? I'm not.
So that's very different from what you were doing, yeah.
Yeah. So I went to see the dyslexia people because they had an office just around the corner.
Right.
And the lady there said, I can't assess you, she said, but I can ask you a couple of questions. And she said, yeah, 100% you're dyslexic.
Do you think it's a generational problem, and do you think it was just a time where dyslexia just wasn't recognised?
Yeah, it just wasn't recognised. It just wasn't a thing. So, but she said, if you want to, you can enter an art competition. And I thought, right, all right, I'll do that. And if I do any good, I'll think about going to college.
Right.
So anyway, I won the regional final. Brilliant. And so I thought, right, I'll go and inquire at the college. And they were lovely, they were great. And I couldn't believe that people were doing that for a living.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 years there. And then there was a lady, one of the teachers who was an ex-Royal College teacher. She said, have you ever considered going to university? And no. She said, well, I think you should. So that became it. So that was 2 years at the college. Then 3 years I did a degree in 3-dimensional design, which is furniture and fine products.
So you must have been in your 40s at this point, right?
Yeah.
So this is a great story, actually. So in your 40s, diagnosed with dyslexia, you probably had it all your life, so many challenges, and then all of a sudden you go to university. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is.
So again, serendipity at the time. There was the engineering department at the university, and the design department was setting up a new course which ran between the two, and they wanted somebody to look after that. So I ended up, after me 3 years there and doing a little bit of designer in residence there, I got the job teaching on that program, and we were there for the next 17 years.
So I'm guessing that's where you met at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, we used to travel up on the train.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Both from Darlington to
Okay.
Newcastle. So not only were we working in the same premises, but we were travelling up and,
We were brought up about 500 yards apart.
and didn't know.
Destiny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, it really could be, couldn't it? So just come back to you quickly then, Sarah. So at this point, we've got you moving back from London back to the northeast.
Yeah.
And then when you came back to the northeast, what were you doing when you came back?
I started doing part-time work at Northumbria University, York.
Lecturing or?
Lecturing,
Okay,
yeah. So I did quite. And then I got a permanent post in virtually in the same month as Colin getting a permanent post.
Okay.
And that's,
And this is where we are coming
Converge,
out. Intertwined lives come
Yes.
together. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, great. So when was this and what year are we looking roughly? Are we
2004.
I'm glad. I'm one of you knew that because
Well, luckily both of us knew it.
great.
Yeah.
So 2004 you met. Was it love at first sight?
Oh, well, but I'm a bit. I didn't get it. People were coming up to me and saying, there's whatever on sale. I've got this at Phoenix. I think if you get one for Sarah for Christmas. I was like, what do you mean? But,
so how long were you kind of like working and travelling in together before? Were you talking like a week, 6 months? Was it quite a long period of time, or?
Yeah, about 6 months.
Oh, really? Wow! So a little bit of time then. Okay.
Yeah. But sort of, and then we, because of what I was teaching as well, contemporary design influences, and Colin was doing contemporary design influences for his degree students. Right. We did a joint trip down to London with students, and I think that just sort of sealed it, didn't it?
Yeah, she just fell asleep on me. In the coach on the way back, I thought,
what are you doing? I've been told to go to Phoenix and now you're asleep. What is what's going on? I love that. Great. Okay. So you met, obviously you began dating or what have you, and then how long was it before? Are you married, or by the way?
Yeah, we're married.
Yeah. How long before you got married? Quite a...
Oh, a long time.
Yeah,
We've been married 6 years.
Really? So,
yeah.
So we've given quite a long time.
We've been in the same house together for a long time. Yeah.
Good. And now you're working together as well?
Yeah. Well, we sort of worked together a little bit at the university as well. Yeah. We embarrassed a few people, didn't we?
So at this point you were at the university, and then I'm guessing at some point you decided to move in together. And where did you set up home? Whereabouts was that?
Initially in Darlington.
Yeah.
Okay. And then...
So Darling, we're talking 2010-ish now? Is that
no, 2005.
Oh, right. So, right, okay. So this, we didn't mess around moving in together.
No.
Okay, so this is 2000. So Darlington had been going through some big changes then, wouldn't it, Darlington? It was, I mean, it's still kind of up and down, isn't it? And it's had a bit of resurgence, and it's kind of, So at that point, I'm guessing it was a bit of they've lost the steel industry at this point, is that right? Or they're certainly losing it, weren't they? Or?
Yeah, a lot of businesses were closing down.
Heavy
so
duty,
it was, which is a bit of a shame. But so we were anyway involved in education then, so it was which was great. I mean, we loved being with the students. Teaching was brilliant.
Would you say that's a passion for you both? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so actually, because we're still basically we're still teaching now. But
what is it you would say that you enjoy or you enjoyed at that point most about the teaching? What would you say is the big wins for you on a kind of daily basis?
Sparks.
Yeah.
When you see other people totally get it, and you sort of like they're impassioned about the subject in the same way that you are. So when you see that sort of
that
tiny igniting, and think, oh, I can do that, and because they don't believe they can do it, and then you think their shoulders sort of perk up, and they think, I can. Yeah.
Do you think there was a little bit of people who were maybe from disadvantaged backgrounds as well? I'm guessing those ones are more satisfied in some ways as well, are they?
Yeah, definitely.
People like yourself, Colin, in some ways, with dyslexia and things.
Yeah. It was tended to be mixed. I mean, to start off with, when we first started teaching, the students were really eager. They were, and then I suppose towards the end, it had flipped where people were just there because they had to go to university. So a lot of the group were semi-interested. There was quite a few who were really into it, but the majority wasn't. That was what switched. So it wasn't as pleasurable.
No.
But
do you think that's a societal thing maybe as well, or?
I think people, kids didn't have. There isn't an offer for anything else to do or anywhere to go. It's just you go to university, and then what? You've got loads of debt.
But also the recruitment system in the universities has changed, and there's a lot of things coming together that. And
you see on the news, don't you, day out now, and there's a big thing about fees and all the rest, and it seems to somebody uneducated like myself that there's a lot of money grabbing going on and all the rest of it, and it's becoming very blurred, isn't it? Whether what's right for the uni, what's right for the student, and I haven't been involved in this world, but I'm assuming you felt some of that at the time.
Well, it's the league tables again, isn't it? It's how you put in the Times further education, and all of that. If you're, so it's about looking good.
But even in schools now, art education, design education, in certain schools in particular, is well down the pecking order. but they don't realise it's a problem-solving vehicle.
Yeah.
It's not just drawing a pretty picture. You're actually problem-solving,
But design is
understanding different things.
fundamental to our world, isn't
Yeah,
it? Everything around us was designed,
Yeah.
you know. So totally
Yeah.
get that.
But little kids today, we've had the pleasure of working with groups of little really young school children, and giving them something practical to do with tools is amazing.
Yeah.
They're just transformed, aren't
Sparks.
they?
Sparks, yeah.
Just funny, Sarah, every time you mention it, I can see it lighting you up as well, still, even now.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think that's another challenge that most of us are well aware of, but you see now younger people, in particular children, there's often this culture of there's an iPad or there's a screen or there's a system, and people aren't designing as much as they perhaps were, and I think that's really sad. It's a core skill that I think we're losing. I really do. It's on a bigger picture maybe.
Well, it helps. It's not just a core skill. It's actually
It's cognitive function, everything, isn't it?
Cognitive functioning, problem solving, but it also has a calming influence.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, that takes us nicely to so when did you leave the uni? Was that recently or
2020.
Okay, 20. Oh, right. Okay. Was there a reason for that or?
It's a culmination
Collective.
of lots of things, and we sort of we've known for about 5 years what we wanted to do and where we wanted to head, and we'd been sort of future-proofing, as in buying bits of kit, bits of tools and things, and we thought we'll just retire from the university, set up a business where people came and paid us lots of money to learn.
Was that the idea? Yeah.
That was the idea.
That was a beige idea. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a beige idea.
But then, of course, we had the COVID. We managed to get a deal from the university where we took voluntary severance.
Right.
So we did all the sums. Can we afford it? Can we? And we could just if we, we're not.
Yeah.
Never going to be millionaires.
So this is early 2020, or we kind of
Yes.
right? Okay, so COVID obviously was a
COVID was an impact thing as well. Yeah.
How bizarre is it? It's 5 years almost to the day that there was lockdown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just. Can you believe that was 5 years ago?
23rd of March.
It was 23rd of March. There you go. Wow. I mean, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What a different time this planet became. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, and we were just talking about the change that it's had on everybody. It's such a. How did it impact yourselves? Just going off on a tangent a little bit, but how was COVID for yourselves?
Well, without realising it at the time, so I think everybody either did or didn't get a coping mechanism and fell into a path of doing things. So, isolation. We were isolated, so I went a little bit mad. I used to walk for about
Climbed Kilimanjaro.
just round the house. But then it became an obsession because I got an app.
Steps.
And I was going up Kilimanjaro.
I've seen them.
I've been up Mount Fuji. But you end up, and it's because it's sort of live around the world, and you end up with sort of actually in a line of people. So you wake up in the morning and so and so, where is he? So I'm doing laps around the dining table, and
Do you know what? For all of the challenges that we had with COVID, and there was many, obviously, and there's still many now, let's be honest, I think there were so many positive elements that came from it. And I think one of them was we all got to kick up the backside that we have to be a bit more active, I think, in some ways, didn't we? And things like that appeared, and virtual race and all these things. And, there's lots of good things came of a bad situation, I think, as well.
Well, it did buy us time, didn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I would, sort of sit. I'd have time to sit out in the garden in the summer and just whittle spoons and something I've done for ages.
I was going to ask you about that. So is that something you'd... in fact, if you wouldn't mind, just explain a little bit about what whittling is, Colin, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I think when we first teach people now, it's getting back to basics, and people of a certain age will have sharpened a pencil with a knife, or they'll have sat and just put a point on the end of a stick, and that goes back. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things with knife crime and things like that now, so it's not quite as prevalent as it was, but it was just you just whittled a stick for something to do, and then if you sort of fancied putting a face on or something like that, then you can have a go. And that's sort of where it started. And
just a hobby for you then, was it?
It was just alongside stuff I was doing at the uni. Got some of the students involved doing it a little bit.
Self-taught? Or
pretty much, And I wasn't really looking at the internet or anything. It was just sort of, well, you do this,
Love that.
Yeah. So then, I don't know, it just became, well, this is a thing, we could do this. This is what we like doing. We like art, we like printing, so Sarah had her projects, I had mine. So we were able to, through lockdown, we were sort of all right in our own little world.
I was going to say, you've honed, so, I learned to make banana cake and learned to drink lots of wine, and but you obviously managed to put your skills to use and I guess hone your skills and hone your passion, I'm guessing. Is that fair to say? Yeah.
So then we were able, once we came out of COVID and everything, to sort of investigate where we might do this. So we got a few venues lined up, and we advertised and ran a couple of classes. We did guinea pig ones with sort of neighbours and friends and whatnot. So it was all right. It sort of got that bit out of the way, and then.
So that was the plan. So you both worked in the uni for quite a period of time. Lockdown happened. You both had hobbies. You both had skills, and then you were like, we're going to do, you'd already had the idea to do something, make a lot of money. And then you decided, okay, we want to make this a business. Is that fair to say? And then, or was it just still at that time, was it just bring some money in, or was it? Yeah,
it was the business hadn't fully evolved, had it?
No.
How did it feel thinking about becoming entrepreneurs and business people, or was that something they'd never really registered at that point?
Well, Sarah had done my website because through the university, we used to exhibit internationally with students and designers in residence at the university. So we'd done Stockholm Furniture Fair for a lot of years, and in the latter years it was over to New York to the International Contemporary Furniture Fair. Wow. So members of staff in the staff team would set a brief for the designers in residence, and we as staff would work alongside them, produce our own things, and then go over there. And so we had a website that we sort of went with. So previous to the Wiggly Path, we were Wilson and Ben.
Right, okay, right.
So I was Wilson and this is Ben.
Long story.
do you want to tell us, or?
Well, it's the cartoon Mr. Ben.
Yeah. Right, okay.
Which is, they're all morality tales.
Yeah.
So we used to meet each other at the station when we first met on a morning. We'd get there independently, and
did you have different costumes on, or?
Well, this was this was the thing. So we were off on another adventure. Where are we going today? So that became the thing. So it was.
Oh, but the first thing he said was like, well, what are we doing today, Mrs. Ben? so it's like...
I love that. That's lovely, by the way. I love that. That's
interesting,
really
that.
So the business, well, it wasn't a business, it was just the website became Wilson and Ben, which still exists, but it's mainly stuff I did.
It's your portfolio.
Yeah, it's a portfolio. And then we sort of realised, we got advice from the AAP, Area Action Partnership, that said, if you become a CIC, we can give you work, and we can tell you where that is. So that was a bit of a mission, but it took us a while to do that, didn't it?
Before this, Colin got asked. Somebody dropped out because they were poorly, and Colin got asked by another social enterprise to actually step in and do some carving for a group of people, and that's how we got into working for other social enterprises.
But it was one of the guys from there, which we still see today, who'd been through quite a lot of mental trauma, and he's one of those, hadn't left the house for a year and things like that, and been on all sorts of therapies, and at the end of the session he said, "This is the best thing that's happened to me."
Brilliant.
He said, "This is it. I can do this."
Yeah.
And it really helped him, and then then the penny sort of starts to drop, and you think, and then again through here, there's a lot of people who are isolated who just need somewhere to get out, and whether they socialise or not, they can come along to one of our sessions and they can join in.
So I'm guessing at that point you hadn't really heard much about social enterprise. It was relatively new to you.
Yeah.
It still is, lots of people still don't get it, We're in the world, right? So we understand it, we understand the connotations, we understand how it works, but to the man on the street or the person on the street, social enterprise doesn't mean anything still, does it? No. So how was that transition for you then? Was that difficult to get your head around, or honestly, or?
It's another world, and again, getting into it, there was, you've got the good, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, of course.
And all of that.
Yeah, of course.
So that the first year was initially, we were sort of a scattergun. We'd take anything, and just to try and get by and learn as much as we could. Yeah. And luckily we met some good people.
We met some very nice people. So we've worked for the TCR hub in Barnard. We've worked for UTAS up at Teesdale, Agricultural Support Services, which, you know, they're lovely people, really lovely. So
and then,
we've...
well, when we met BIC, that was when things really started to... We realised that we could get funding to run our own classes. And that's, so we haven't really looked back since then.
No.
That was the catalyst that sort of got us...
So you had the idea, you then started thinking, okay, social enterprise is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Were you registered at this point, or was it still just
we
doing
were
it still?
About to register, and that was partly because I'd actually helped set up another social enterprise before, but that was completely different because that was in garment manufacture. So I was one of a number of 5 people who helped set that up because of different skills across the all 5 people. One was an accountant, one had worked making stuff. I'd worked as a pattern cutter as well as a designer. Somebody else was actually learning how to sew. So it was a number of different people setting up self-made studios. So I'd seen how that one worked, but to work it and be in a different space, because there's lots of different types of social enterprise. So I did understand, but I'd not written documentation before.
You kind of got the idea that it was for good, basically. Business for good. It's a really cliched kind of sentence, but it's a true sentence, isn't it? It's
you know, we're not in it for money.
No. Everybody says the same thing. It's not. So, okay, great. So you thought social enterprise, and then you thought, what was the kind of plan? Was it to do group work? And I'm guessing at that point, were you just kind of going from venue to venue? How did that work initially?
We were lucky and picked up, say, from the TCR hub or up at Teesdale, Agricultural Support Services. They'd had some funding to put things on, particularly with the hub in Barnard Castle, where they wanted a 12 weeks of sessions for a predominantly men's group. Although there was the first time we did it, it was mixed.
How did that feel for you both? Like, because you're not from a psychology or counselling background. Did you feel pressured, or was it easy? Did you just think it's...
No, because we didn't realise what we did had the power to do what it does. So it was just, we were just doing what we did. I mean, when you look back through lockdown and things like that, me sat in the garden, just, that gets you, you're in your own headspace, you're concentrating on what you do. You're outside in nature, and it's just idyllic.
We have learnt an awful lot over the last couple of years, actually, from doing different things.
I think it's a cliche, but I think the more people you talk to, the more opportunities you hear about, and the more stories you hear, the more you can build your own kind of tale, isn't it? I think that's a really kind of true sentiment, isn't it? So you're travelling around, you were doing bits and pieces, getting the odd contract here and there. As you said, it wasn't going to make you rich. And then I believe you now have your own space, is that right? So how did that happen?
That was
serendipity.
Serendipity, and it was fantastic.
We talked about the place. We knew it existed. We'd been before to other events that were held there, and we went to an event. It was something to do with Durham County, with various artists from around the area, and we sat in their classroom that they had, and I thought, I wonder if we could rent this space.
So it's a quarry, is that right?
Yes.
It's a nature reserve. Everything's natural. It's a lovely spot. So we sort of arranged a meeting with a lady who runs it, and then for whatever reason that got sort of
deferred down the line a bit, didn't it?
For about 6 weeks, and then we just happened to turn up on the day there was a guy moving out of a workshop, moving to the bigger classroom, and we said we're looking to rent in space, and said, well, this is available now, and we just for a while just
had a look.
We just stood there, as you can hear the stream sort of.
I love that. So how would you describe the space, just so people who are listening?
It's a proper workshop. Okay. So it's
so kind of a
rough around the edges, as it were, because it is a workshop, but it's comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's got a wood burning stove in it, so it's quite like a
cabin in the
it's
woods.
Like a cabin
almost,
in the woods
Yeah.
next to a babbling brook, literally.
Wow, beautiful.
You've got to go down a windy path to get to it. A wiggly path you have to go down. Yeah. So and then it can take about, depending on what class we're running, whether it's weaving or whether it's whittling, we can actually do up to sort of like, we have had 12 actually. We've had 12 weavers actually. A special group came across from Barnard-Gassel and spent the day with us. So yeah.
But everybody that seems to come down thinks, it is a special place, and to be able to, there's no pressure, you can't see another building, it's tucked out of the way.
Just completely with nature,
Yeah.
And so the Wiggly Path, I assume that's where the name came from. Is that right, or am I wrong?
The Wiggly Path, Colin's, ever since I've met Colin, I wouldn't worry about that. It's a wiggly path, If I was concerned about something, it's a wiggly path.
So. As I say,
Yeah. So when we were looking for,
so it's from Colin, really.
It just seemed. I mean, there was another idea, which the Pointy Stick Company was another one that it could have been. I still have the domain name for the Pointy Stick Company.
I really like the Wiggly Path. I like the name anyway, but now that I know the meaning of it, because I guess life is a wiggly path, and that's I guess you get people from all walks of life, and that's brilliant.
And I love that. You never know what's each and every person has had something happen to them, whether it's a lovely thing like at the birth of a child, a loss of a parent, or some things happen to somebody, illness. So you get it's a wiggly path,
I do sometimes ask people, I say, when things go a bit quiet, I'll say, did you ever imagine, years ago, you'd end up here doing something like this? And well, there you go. So everybody's just amazed how they end up with us doing this. I love that. How has that happened?
I love that. So how long have you kind of been going in this kind of format then? 2 year, 3 year, a year? What does that look like?
18 months.
Wow, that new, brilliant. Okay, great.
18 months.
And how's the first 18 months been? Good, bad, ugly?
Absolutely amazing.
First year, as I've said, it's a huge learning curve. Yeah. It's just, we were all over. We ended up doing too much, or Sarah ended up doing far too much. Into the world of writing bids and all of that. And
it's a lot, isn't it? It's a small operation, and
it is.
People who are not familiar with the world of business, I guess, really, but there's the financials to do, there's your marketing to do, there's your sales, there's then delivering the sessions, there's all sorts to think about. It's tough, isn't it? Is there any kind of advice that you would give to anyone who is looking to set up a social business? Any lessons that you learned along the way?
Talk to the pig.
We like that. I think, would you say that's true, to talk to?
Oh, definitely talk to somebody who understands social enterprises.
Yeah.
And I have to say a big shout for somebody who's helped us, and that's Judith Fowler, who's been absolutely amazing, because what a support she's been. Yeah. And totally has actually got into our space to understand what we do, so that she can actually almost live the experience to understand how she can help us
and be part of that journey, rather than directing it. She's on the on the kind of bus with you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. So I do think it's good to speak to other social enterprises.
Yeah, how have you found that? Do you speak to many other business? I know you guys are quite rural, aren't you? So do you get the chance to speak to many other social businesses? Or?
Well, one of the big ones actually, and a big shout out to them, is We're Dale Together and Root and Branch Cafe. Because they're a CIC, and they've done amazing things themselves. But we might sort of advertise something, and they'll put it on their social, and and vice versa. So there's sort of support for each other as well.
But the networking events through BIC were, they weren't like things that maybe we might have done at the university. It was genuine. I mean, you were meeting. Lovely, like-minded people.
Just good people doing good things,
good
isn't
people,
it?
And people would give you your advice free. We've made some great friends who want to work with us. It's really sort of set us a ball rolling for us, hasn't it?
I think that's the really great thing about the sector. And like in any walk of life, you're always going to get the very odd bad egg. But I think on the whole, 99% of people in this sector are bloody good people, quite honestly they are. And everybody's, you've said it numerous times, you're not in this to make your millions, right? And nobody else is really. People are in this because they've got a real heart, a real passion. And most people will put their hands up and say, I'm not a business person, And we go, well, you are. But they'll go, no, we're not. And we go, well, you are. But people do it because they want to help others. And I guess that's prominent for you guys as well, is it?
Well, that's sort of the kick we get now out of it, isn't it? You know, people who, we've had a couple of people who couldn't actually cross the threshold, but have, you know, through encouragement from partners, wives or whatever, or vice versa. And they've sort of transformed before our eyes. And that's, you know.
That's such a pleasure to see,
Does it go back to that spark you were talking about?
Yeah,
it does.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But I'm guessing it's different. Maybe it's not so much a spark, maybe it's more
it's a lift of shoulders.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a lift of shoulders. So instead of sort of being, it's and the confidence, you can see the body posture change because of the confidence.
Really?
Yeah.
The only downside that we've found to this, and we think we're in the process of resolving it for ourselves at the moment, is this: when we do get employed by other agencies or whatever, that it's only for a short period, and that comes to an end. And those people have made a relationship with us; they've made a relationship
with each other.
With each other, and all of a sudden, well, the funding stopped, and there's nowhere to go. So we decided that we'd look at a model for running a club where we knew people would have to pay a fee, and that was a difficult.
It's a balancing act because you don't want it to be too expensive. You want it to be affordable, but we still need to keep the lights on in our workshop, as it were. So,
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's a real challenge for social entrepreneurs like yourself. It's a real battle of wills, isn't it? Because you want to give it all for free if you could, but the fact is you need to eat, you need the lights on, and that can be really challenging. Is there any advice you would give to anyone, or anything you would say to anyone who's having that predicament or facing that predicament?
Try it,
give
but
it
don't underestimate what you're doing. Because
I think if your product, if you like, or what you do is genuine and it's good, people will come with you on the journey. I was worried about it and thinking, right, we can start this club, right? We're going to have to advertise it on Facebook. And as soon as we asked the people, it was coming to the end of their sessions, the funded sessions, do you fancy coming? And they just all said yes. So it was, well, dear, we're full.
I think there's often that fear, isn't there? There's the fear that, they're not going to pay. And actually, when you speak to people, if they like it, which 9 times out of 10 they will, they're going to go, I would pay for that, actually.
And it's not anywhere near the sums that...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if you do artist union rates or whatever it is. But it's... If we can keep it motoring...
But some people are, for whatever reason, on the edge, don't have the money because of various reasons. So at the minute we're trying to think of, or come up with a way if perhaps we could have bursaries for people and sort of try and fund people so they can keep going in this.
So you'd have seen that from the university days, wouldn't you? Things like that, I'm guessing. Disadvantaged backgrounds and blah, blah, blah. I love that. That's a really good idea, actually.
We're in the throes of trying to navigate that, to try and see how we could...
Maybe get sponsors or whatever it looks
like. Yeah.
So perhaps a business would sponsor somebody's place for 6 months or a year or whatever, and then we don't know. We'll have to. We're still that's part of the next part of the journey.
So you're always evolving. That's great. Yeah. So what's next for the Wiggly Path then?
More of that, really, to actually see how we can actually be inclusive.
Tomorrow is Thursday.
Yes.
And it's the first day of the Thursday Club.
Ah, brilliant. Tell us about the Thursday Club. I feel like we're breaking news, by the way. Tell us about the Thursday Club?
So the Weardale Weaving and Whittling Club.
Yeah.
Which the Weaving Club is on a Friday morning and the Whittling Club is a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
2 hours for each, for up to 8 people. So the Friday one was full. We'd just come to the end last week of the funded sessions for the Thursday group and asked the question, does anybody want to continue? Yeah. And everybody said yes.
I love that.
So
hands went up.
So we're sort of mainly full again, aren't we?
Certainly on
for
the
2
afternoons,
days now. So that puts us in a better position now. So we sort of we just have to be careful that it doesn't get out of hand and it becomes
a monster.
Yes.
Yeah. But good. Yeah. And where do you final question really is, where do you see the Wiggly Path going? What's the goal? or are you quite happy kind of just doing what you're doing, or is there plans to grow? What does that look like?
I think we don't want to grow so that we're unwieldy.
Yeah.
We've seen other agencies in this sector
lose their characteristic maybe a little bit. Lose their charm maybe.
We can see that if you keep reasonably tight, that you keep your values. Keep your values really, and I think.
There's a couple of funded projects that we want to run if we can this year, building on ones we did last year. So we want to bring in other CICs, other artists that we've identified who are good eggs, really good eggs, and work with them. And the offer will be a real variety of things to do. And you come along for a day and do. You may go foraging, you may be making your own food, you may be eating it with utensils you've made yourself. It's
like a retreat almost. It could be
sort of, but sort of on a weekly basis. So you're not. It's building on skills.
So that could be an exciting thing when the weather turns and it gets. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
If we can.
It's been snowing today, hasn't it? It's, we're filming this in March, and it's been snowing, which is quite frightening.
Yeah, you've got your shots.
But no, honestly, thank you so much for both of you for sharing your stories. It's great. I mean, the final thing for me to say is we've kind of cracked the top off the egg. We've scooped it all out. We've found out lots about you. If you had a message for the world, what would the message be?
Oh gosh.
Just have a little time. Just
be kind.
Yeah, take a little time. Don't be in a rush to get everywhere so quick. Just leave a little time for yourself, because it looks like people who haven't, they've ended up, in not a very good place. So,
take time for yourself.
Yeah,
I love that.
Look after yourself.
Sarah, Colin, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much on behalf of the Good Eggs podcast. It's time for me to present you with your Good Eggs. So thank you so much for coming. Thanks very much, Colin.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
And brilliant. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.